What's going on, guys? This is Cameron, aka the Currency Kid. Today I wanted to make a video. I was having a conversation with some buddies on what to look for when it comes to investing, and this can really relate to IPO investing, ICO investing. But today I want to focus on ICO investing, initial coin offerings. I'm doing this a little bit off the cusp here. I'm just going to walk through this with you guys, just have just a conversation on the subject. If you're very new to the ICO space and investing in cryptocurrency projects, I recommend you go watch my video, basic ICO terminology that you should know before you watch this video, because there's a lot of terms in this video. If you're new, you may not be familiar with, and I made a video earlier today describing some of those terms. So once again, if you're really new to the space, some of these terms confuse you, go ahead and feel free to watch the video I made earlier today, and you'll find it in my channel. All right, so moving on. Once again, a lot of these factors, a lot of these decisions are very similar to investing in IPOs, initial purchase offerings. But once again, today we're going to talk about ICO investing. So there's really two different ways to look at an ICO. You have your subjective, which really comes down to opinion, what you think, your personal beliefs. A lot of this is pretty gray. There's really no definites when it comes to subjective matters like, how's their team, how's their advisors, how good is their idea. A lot of this stuff is very subjective. And obviously the more experience you have in this space, more intuition you gather investing in different projects, and more information you have on tech and all that in general, the easier these decisions are to make. Then you have your objectives. Objectives basically meaning how much are they trying to raise, how many tokens are they selling, what percentage of the tokens, how long are they locked up for, when do investors get their tokens. These are more definites. These are more, okay, it's really not gray, it's pretty black or white. It's not it looks good, we're still trying to figure that out. It's no, what are the numbers, what's the date, what do those look like? These are definites, very black and white, and subjective, once again, is just really a gray area, and a lot of it comes down to just what you and your team, what your perspective is on that and how you feel. So going into subjective matters, one of the most important metrics when evaluating if you want to invest, I feel like a lot of people skip this, is evaluating the team. I can't tell you how many investors I know, and I was definitely one of these when I was investing in penny stocks back in the day and investing in crypto in the beginning. If you asked me the name of any of the CEOs and founders of the companies I was invested in, I would have no clue. And that's a huge red flag. If you're putting hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars into a project and you don't even know the name of the guy who runs the project, that's very bad. Very, very bad. At that point, it's just gambling. That's my perspective. I know a lot of venture capitalists feel it's a very important metric. Who are these guys? Who's running the project? Is it some guy who's just going to quit as soon as he gets a little bit of cash from the ICO and as soon as things get hard? Does he only have one developer on his team for the project, and as soon as that guy leaves, the leader's going to quit? It's very important to get an understanding of who these people are that you're invested in, because at the end of the day, obviously you're investing in the project, but you're investing in these people as well. The project's not going to run itself. The team is going to run the project. So it's very subjective on how you find out if these founders, CEOs are people worth investing in. It's tricky. It really is. Not all the time is it going to be obvious. Like, hey, here's Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates. They're starting another company. They're all stars. You should definitely invest in their company. It's not that easy. And if it is that easy, it's very unlikely that we are going to get the chance to invest in their companies and ICOs. So a lot of this just comes down to looking at their LinkedIn profile, seeing their background. Do they have a lot of background in the subject? Are they starting a crypto project and they've only, had the company going for 2 months, and before they were a car salesman? Were they a professional bodybuilder and now they're running a tech company? Not saying that those don't, not saying that someone can't come into a new industry and dominate, but the team, do they have experience? Do they have a couple people that have experience? Are these all-star players? Um, my team in the past, and still to this day, we will research the names of the founders. We will look for Facebook pages, Instagram. We'll type in their name and then type in scam at the end to see if anything comes up. Little things like that. There was one company we were very bullish on. Did a little bit more research on the founder and saw some things that weren't appealing to us, so we definitely had to pass. A project can look great, everything can look great, but if the guy running the place is only after your money and is going to take off as soon as he gets it, there may be some telltale signs on that. So once again, a very subjective matter. Advisors, not as important, but definitely important. Who do they have in the space that's helping them run this project? A lot of times companies and projects will be in very high demand just because they have a couple very important and notable figures that are advising them. So definitely important, not as important as obviously verifying who the team is, but advisors, definitely something you should look at. If this team has some good advisors, some good people with some good track records on their team, it may add value, and those advisors will definitely be there to help the team in the future. Idea, super subjective matter, especially with crypto being a newer and blockchain being a newer space. Very few people have the foresight to see where this industry is going and if a product can really take off. So once again, idea, very subjective. What I would look at is, okay, is this something that I can see being around in 4 years? If I can't see something being around in a couple years, then really I'm only investing in it for a quick flip. And I'm really not too interested in that. More so for the fact that I wouldn't know when to sell that investment and get my money out. So a couple questions I would ask again, can I see this being around in a couple years? Can I see this being useful to the space? Is there 1,000 other projects just like this that came out and their value went to zero? Things you need to look at. Does this project need to be on the blockchain? How many people is this going to help? Is this going to be massive, or is it only like a small niche market that may not even catch on? So those are some things that I ask and ponder when it comes to the actual idea. One thing I forgot to add in there is the MVP. This is basically showing, or this is basically, is there a working product out there? If you have a project that wants to raise $25 million for an app, and they have the greatest, best app out, there's a white paper on it, it looks amazing, it's going to change the world, everyone's going to 10 times their money, and you look and they don't even have an actual app or product out there or close to being out there, then at that point, really you're just investing in an idea. And that actually leads me to my next point here. I always want to look at the roadmap. Okay, what have you guys done? Okay, you guys started a year ago. You gained some traction. You're having a launch event now to make it public. You're doing your marketing now. You're raising your funds. Okay, when does the MVP come out? When can we expect this all to launch and be real? If it's 4 years from now, you got to take that into consideration. Why would you give your money to a project where it's not going to be viable and have a use base, customer base for several years, unless you really see it as something that's going to change the future and you really want to be an early investor? But then again, that may raise the question on why are they raising funds so early? So once again, if there's a great idea out there, I like to see, a lot of investors like to see that there's an actual working product of some sort out there. Obviously, it's going to change several times over. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all these different apps, they've changed several times over. There's never going to be a complete final product, but we need to know that the idea you're talking about, before I put my money down, I want to see that at least that you have something out there that's a working product, that people is fairly user-friendly, and that I can see, obviously, with a couple things being tweaked, can be something that is very usable. You can have all the money in the world, you can have the greatest team in the world, you can have 1 million people that want to use your product, but if the product sucks and you can't even get it to marketplace and you can't even get it off the ground, then what are we doing here? What are we invested in, roadmap, once again, I like to see a timeline of the processes they're making. I want to see that either they already have a lot of great stuff done already, or it's coming up pretty soon in the future. I also like to see that projects stick by their deadlines. I've seen a lot of projects lose a lot of value because they said they were going to release something one date, and those dates came by several times, and they still didn't get it out there. That just shows investors that you're really not up to your word, and you're really not as reliable. I think it's very important to have a good, clear roadmap and stick to that. You want investors to feel confident in what you're doing and know that you're sticking to your deadlines and that you are actually going to execute on what you're talking about. Otherwise, it's just all fugazi, and what are we really doing here if you don't have an MVP out? It's literally just an idea, and we're not getting anything done. At that point, what are you doing with my money? I want my money back. Okay, here are a couple objective matters, as Ian Bellina famously has called them, and this is what everyone in the space is calling them now. These are the token metrics, basically the financials, so to speak. And I misspelled a couple of those things. One of the most important things that people look for, you'll hear this a lot, is what is the hard cap? How much is this company trying to raise? And it's important for this reason. So you have two companies here. Well, I definitely botched that. Let's see here. Let me restart this. So you have two companies here, two projects. Project 1, here's project 2. This project wants to raise $10 million, a very modest sum. Second project wants to raise $25 million. These numbers are important when it comes to return on your investment. If you can see both these projects going to $100 million, well, this project would, if it went to $100 million, you would 10x your gains. Because you bought in, you invested in a project that's worth $10 million. That's how much they're raising during the ICO. And if it goes to $100 million, this is super challenging. You 10x your gains. If this project had the same results, went to $100 million, you only 4x'd your initial investment compared to the same exact project that was raising less money. So that's why it's very important to look at, how much is a project trying to raise? Do they have a cap? A lot of people don't want to invest in a project that doesn't have a cap on how much they're investing. Several projects, raising $100 million plus get passed up on, even if they're going to change the space, just because the odds of them returning a great sum of money to their investors are way less likely than a project with a lower hard cap. So a lot of investors look for projects with those low caps. Not saying that projects with a low cap are better projects than ones with a high cap. This just gives you an idea of your return on your investment here. Okay, it's also pretty important to know how many tokens are for sale compared to percentage of total tokens. Let me try to write an example here. Man, I'm doing this the bootleg way. May have to abandon this whole thing right here. Okay, I'm going to have to skip that. Yeah, so it's important how many tokens are being sold compared to what percentage of the total tokens are out there. If someone is raising $10 million for their hard cap for 50% of their tokens, okay, that values the total project at $20 million. Once again, they're selling half of their tokens at $10 million. So total, the entire project would be worth $20 million. If someone is raising $10 million for only 10% of the project, then they're saying that that project's worth $100 million. So once again, we like to see ICOs that are raising a fairly larger portion of their tokens during the ICO. A lot are around the 50% or higher range. If, for example, they're raising $100 million for 10% of their tokens, a valuation of $1 billion for a project that is in their ICO stages, that could definitely be a red flag and be overvalued and may not be a great investment for you. Okay, how long are the team tokens locked up for? A lot of investors, including myself, we like to see this. One, just to kind of know how confident the team is in their project. If a team can't receive any tokens for several years, it obviously means that they think their project's going to be around for a while. Why would these teams and projects want to tie up their funds for 3 years if they don't think that their project is going to be as valuable or around in 3 years? It doesn't make a lot of sense. They would want to get their tokens right off the bat to get their money and get out. So a factor we like to see is over a year. A lot of companies kind of taper off. A lot of teams taper off. They get a certain percentage of their tokens each month in over a 36-month period. But we definitely like to see that there is a lockup period. This shows that there's skin in the game for the team. It's a little bit scary when there's no lockup period for the team, because what if this team raises $100 million? They have half the tokens and there's no lockup period. Well, then right after they take your money, they can sell all those. Right after they take all your money, they can just sell all their coins day one, exit, and leave you holding a bag of goods that are worth zero. So that's an important factor. How long are the team tokens locked up for? Another important factor is, when are the tokens released to investors? If I'm in January here and I give you my money, I'd like to see my tokens fairly soon. Not necessarily that I'm going to sell them all right off the bat, but I'd rather have my money in hand than not in hand. A lot of people will pass on an investment, and I know that me and my team have, if we don't get our tokens for 7 months. In the meantime, there could be plenty of other good projects that you can invest in that can return your money several times over if you do it right by the time that other project even gives you your money. So another huge red flag would be if the team tokens are not locked up. Let's say they're only locked up for a month, and your tokens are either locked or you don't get them for a year. That really means that the team can sell all their tokens right after that first month, and you can't sell anything for the entire time yours are locked up for. Very risky. I like to see that my tokens are given to me before the teams are available. Once again, not for me to sell and get out of the project, but just to really know that the team has skin in the game. And just like with anyone else, investors, non-investors, a lot of people want to know that their money is in hand and they do have their investment, and they can either take out their initial investment to invest in another project, or just know that they have their tokens there, etc. So just to summarize, when you're looking at it, I separate it into twos. One's the financials and the numbers, the black and whites. The others is subjective, very gray. I look at the team. Are they solid? Are they trustworthy? Do they have good advisors backing them? Is it a great idea? Is it going to be around? Is there something out there that's actually a working product? Is this something real? Or are we just investing in an idea? What's the roadmap? Do they have a plan on what they're doing? Are they just going to try to raise $100 million and then figure it out from there? No, that's not a business plan. This is the business plan. What are they trying to get done? What are their timelines? Is it reasonable? Is it going to happen soon? If not, why should I invest now when I can just invest down the line when you're at that point? Hard cap. How much is this company and project trying to raise? Is it well valued? I had to pass up on a company. They're starting an app. They wanted to raise $50 million after their app has already hit the store. Why am I giving you $50 million when your product is already out and available? What do you guys need $50 million for? Also, it's very hard for you to 10 times your money on a $50 million project compared to other projects, maybe around $10 million or $5 million or $25 million. So hard cap is a very important factor. How many tokens are for sale? I want to see that it's a fairly large percentage. Obviously, I expect the team to have some tokens. I'm not greedy. We know that they need capital to start and continue to run their project. But I want to see that they're releasing a good amount of tokens to investors, and we're not just holding a small portion of the pie, so to speak. How long are the team tokens locked up for? I want to see that these guys have skin in the game and can't pump and dump and leave us with a bag full of worthless goods. And then when do I get my tokens? I don't want them locked up forever. I want to have them in hand in case I want to use something with that money. In investing, it's very important. It's always a good idea to have your investments liquid. And yeah, guys, those are some things that I look for. Another one I forgot to mention is, obviously some hype. I look at for crypto, their Telegram group. How many people do they have in their group? A lot of good projects will have 20,000 people plus, 10,000 people plus. Some great projects had as much as 60,000 people in their group. Is this a community size that's large, or are they trying to raise $1 million and there's 50 people that know about them? It's going to be very hard to get a return on your investment if there's a very small community size, because obviously you need a large community size for the volume, for people to know about your project, for the project to sell. I like to see, not necessarily hype. I don't like the term hype really, but a following. Yeah, a following. What are some other good words? Just a good following. I like to see that they have some traction. Once again, very unlikely that I'll invest in a project raising $50 million if they have a Telegram chat of 20 people, unless it's like day one and I'm on like the first floor angel investor type deal. But yeah, following is very important in the crypto community. You definitely want to see what projects out there have a lot of support and can have a large community and user base in the future. So thanks for watching this video. Any comments below on anything I missed and some strategies that you guys use to invest in companies and ICOs, I would appreciate it. And use these metrics and be safe out there, guys.